Okay, we are recording live, and I'm going to share this to some folks. No, that's not what I want. Okay, it's a wild title. It cut off the comment, and the bottom of it was the best part of it.
So you had to have cropped it maybe a little
It's all right, though.
kind of different.
All right, I guess we're not going to need that speaker. At least it's working. We did our own sound check, right? Okay, and so let's see what we can save this to. Good old Twitter X, which might not be good or all, good, but it is what it is. Everything on that score, and saving to Facebook, Sawyer Heaven's Gate page. Okay, I got that shared to Facebook. So I'll just pop out the chat. I'm an old man. I got to tell myself what to do every step I go. And make it a live chat. And there's nobody here. It's quiet on the Western Front. One person watching. That's got to be me, because I'm watching myself, I think, right now. Well, maybe I shouldn't start with the Revelation material, because that doesn't have anything to do with the title on this. But which I don't mind doing, because it's that expression and part of the verse in Revelation 13:15 that was. I mean, it's still puzzling to me to some degree, but I've had various senses about what it might mean um, in the use of the word image. And the more and more I hear about AI, because this image is being able to be given the ability to speak, and it's an image of the beast, so it's not the image of its own. And the beast in that context are the poisonous humans, the humans that I'm not saying the people that develop the technologies are poisonous. We got to be careful that we don't judge people. But the overall um, the parts of the human kingdom that are occupied by humans that don't know it or not, and not even judging them because we can't, but have been operating directly or indirectly or in all different ways, I guess, uh, um, in different degrees of allegiance to what that word beast represents. As, the reason I say it's poisonous mammals is because it doesn't lead to life in the next level. So it's not real life. And it's when everything under the sun distracts us from looking to appeal to those from the deep outer space stars, beyond where the space aliens can go. And the creators of the planet and the life forms on it. And when we go to that source for our help and for our understanding, and they help us get to that place to where we're going to find the most meaningful aspects of reality that I feel is from Tiando's mind. All the information and everything they left behind in audios and videos. And so that's the process of, and we're talking about also the word sin in this. And Do talks about it in the session 9 in a way that's very, to me, understanding. But I have a trouble with understanding it. I just know that it's been hard for me to wrap my head around exactly what he's saying about uh, inheritance and um, that that these minds are real, these souls are real entities, and they have a relationship with the next level that created them in the first place, and gave them the option to grow like seeds, like Jesus talked about. Planting, T and Do talked about it not like Jesus did. They brought more information to the subject because they were the next step, are the next step, the only next step. Anyway, but in my opinion, but and by the evidence, I believe as well. Um, but so uh,
Mm-hmm.
so I lost where I was going.
The Beyond Human.
Yeah, the Beyond Human tapes, to me, are the best way to um, get acquainted with the body of information that Doe encapsulated to us, that Doe is made of, and that also was what T was made of, times another strata of development in the next level, because Doe thought that Doe learned to come to know from experience that T was his older member in the next level. He knew he came from the next level, and he knew that his T came from the next level also, but was an older member to him. That's why you'll see in tape 9 it talks about the old terminology. That's all outdated now for the most part, although it still does relate to our genes, and that's with the idea of a father, as being the authority figure in the family, and so it's just related to that strain of development that they're talking about. But the real development is coming through the souls that are occupying the vehicles, where it has nothing to do with gender. It's all about commitments, and marriage is all about commitments to people. That's what the real marriage is. Um, Anyway, and so what they're teaching in that is that the ultimate commitment would be to your older member. If you recognize that individual as being the incarnation of the one, um, well, if you just recognize as an older member, recognize as being having things to say that to me are attractive, into the mind, to the thinking, to the philosophy, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. I don't think it matters what the glue is that keeps us wanting to know more and more about what they were teaching, going. Because there's lots of forces that want to say that it's, anything but the highest truths that a human could reach for. And I don't get anything for saying that. It doesn't beef me up at all. It doesn't do anything. But I can't help but expressing it because I think other people could actually. I know that there's other people that are coming to it also, and that's not necessary. Like Doe talks about in session 9, the next level doesn't have a need for new souls to enter their kingdom, and they have a lot of joy though that with new members to their kingdom. But it's the souls, it's the Luciferians that want souls. They're the ones that have an interest in capturing minds into their kingdom in all different ways that happens, relative to what we believe in and what we stand for and what we are um, keeping as our ideals for growth according to the next level behaviors and ways that you can see listed in the major offenses and the lesser offenses in the Heaven's Gate book on heavensgate.com. So I don't have to try to go through them all. And, it's a big chore, it's but it's not unsurmountable, and it's all doable. And the method of doing it is by reaching up to T and Doe's minds, asking Doe for help in that regard when you feel like you need it. It's not just if you just walk around saying I need help, I need help, I need help all the time. They're going to get tired of listening to you because they're actually, T and Doe would say it that way, sorta. I don't not in those exact words, but just that plain logic that it's not about, you know, uh, they're all highfalutin. It's all about that they've got lots of tasks to do, and they want to know. They want to hear from somebody that's serious, and they're asking, and so they know they can tell. They have, like Doe talked about, they have like the equivalent of lights on the console of a computer, and ways of tuning into those members of the human kingdom that are thirsting for change or thirsting for greater knowledge or thirsting for how to reach the greatest positives they can reach for. Yeah, the creators of the kingdom, and the reason why we're here is not a happenstance reason by far. It's the opposite of that. It's designed and directed, but we have free will, so they don't interfere with what humans do to each other, unless the next level feels like it's going too far or something. I don't know what their criteria is, and then they do. They step in where they have to hold back the lower forces, because the lower forces they'll take over everything eventually, if they're allowed to, keep on dominating in that regard. And they'll have good reasons. They'll have all these. I don't mean good reasons. I mean they'll have what their own description is of good reasons, and why it's even seen as good. To um, whether it's get people out of the country or that they say don't belong here, and then the ones that get caught in those nets become like a type of collateral damage. Not that they can't also grow from the experience. They can. That's not a Pollyanna way of thinking. That's a next level way of thinking, I believe. And it makes sense to me that that's the case. With the little life experience that I've had, it's made sense to me that there's lessons for everybody on this planet.
That's why
Right. And that's why we need our vehicles. It's not like something that I'm saying to try to protect myself, but sometimes I do say it to try to share the truth because of somebody that's taking things out of context and not recognizing that there was a whole lot more going on that uh, we don't have a clue about in some ways, but we can have a pretty good clue about in other ways, and that's another whole way of. It's always like a seek and search kind of thing. Like, I mean, when you have Tiendo's information and you believe in it, that is a big step, and and uh, and the next level will help you continue with the next steps that they'll help you make because it is a process of growth through then taking what you get when you feel like you like wow when whatever even if that takes a while and you don't even realize it's happening until all of a sudden you think wow maybe I believe in all this and it's like whoa wait do I really it's it's I went through that actually when I left the group and when I came back to watch the Beyond Human no not Beyond Human but the exit videos of of Last Chance and Planet About to Be Recycled, Last Chance to Advance Beyond Human, with Doe's head taking up the whole screen, it's like, wow, that was so intense, and uh, and I knew that my vehicle was responding as this is bizarre, and at the same time, I knew it was true. I knew there wasn't anything to it. And the reason I was seeing it as bizarre was because of the influences I had around me that were, trying to take over, my mind from seeing with my eyes open more. Because it's always a process. It's never something assumed, how much you can see. And if it's about you, then you're listening, I believe you're listening to something that's not from your older member's mind. Because if it's from your older member's mind, um, you're going to want to. It's going to be, it's a growth process. But you're just going to be compelled, I think, is one way that I put it from my experiences, compelled to grow in their direction, and seek out their mind, find out what they said, over the years that became what it became. Uh, that's, I think, and then, apply it the way you choose to. And it should be a positive. It should never hurt anybody else in any way, shape, or form. Or uh, I was thinking about this earlier because I was asked by someone that's been a long time listener. I don't want to give the exact name of the person, but I believe from Germany, and um, I get it mixed up sometimes with a person from France.
But anyway, you were asked.
Yeah, I mean, about that he was a believer, and he asked about his family, you know, because he's got children. Is there a problem with that? And I said, I think it's the honest answer. I think it's from my older member's mind, is that no, it's not a problem. It's not. It's not the time when the next level has all the members on the planet walking around to leave everything behind. That was like he talked about that in tape 149 as well. That we are the human remnant, uh, human being, human bodies with degrees of a combination of next level mind and the mind from this kingdom. What is actually the mind of the lower forces, the mind from um, well, what they say, Lucifer's mind, and the fallen angel mind, the space alien mind is all part of that, and that translates down to the mind of people that are running this planet. But each one is judged by the next level individually, so it's not for us to decide, but we can judge, I think, behaviors and ways, and we can stay away from the behaviors and ways that aren't positives for us, and not get tangled up with fighting over different points of view. Um, so, so Rise Above is here. Hello to all, it says. And Piss Lord is here. I remember
Oh,
Piss Lord's been here for a while. Yeah, good to see you too, both. And we've been trying, I don't know when you joined us, but been trying to talk about Beyond Human Session 9. And we're, because I didn't remember hearing the word swarm and being used to identify spacecrafts coming in for souls and harvesting souls from the next level and from the lower forces. Because right now, if there's somebody that's got that the next level gave a soul deposit to and they die, the next level has, you know, again, depending on if that soul grew to the degree that the next level feels like it can continue to grow. I got to put that caveat on it because it's not anything. Nothing's automatic, but they don't waste anything, so they know how to determine that. So we don't have to worry about the fairness of things. But that soul then can be stored on what Doe called being stored on ice. Whether they ever had any knowledge about Tiando or not, they could be in that category. So it potentially includes everybody on the planet from our perspective, even though it doesn't, because there's a lot of vehicles on the planet that don't have that seed implanted into their consciousness with the vehicle wrapped around it in some way. But this tea is good. And DSM 999 is saying hello to everyone. Good to see you too, as well. Hello to you. And let's see what else was in here. I was talking about the image of the beast. I never got around to it because I was trying to describe the word beast and everything as being the poisonous humans and, depicted as having 7 heads and 12 horns. It's a big organization. It's got a structure to it. And where the horns are the militaries of these, the 10 different financial ministers that are in charge of paying the military budgets and stuff. And, and that's the way I thought about it around the world. I thought that was the global government that's been in place for a while. It doesn't have everything on the globe, at all, really. I mean, it's got, Europe and North America. Well, no, there's more than that, but there's all different degrees, variations of allegiances. It's like, but it's not about the people. It's about what they, where they put their faith, and we don't know how to determine whether somebody is putting their faith to the highest source that they can reach or not. And so you have potentially good people all over the planet, trying to do the best they can, and the next level judges them. And it's when you have these terrible circumstances, then one of the positive byproducts that come from that, I mean byproducts, it's not a product, so I shouldn't use that, is that people have growth experiences, and they have something to stand for, that it's like T&W used to talk about how this may not seem related because it's such a minor way compared to what people are doing, happening to them in war-torn areas and things. But when you're so occupied with just having to, find something to eat for your kids and your family, and you know, and your friends or whatever your circle is, and um, you might spend a lot of time doing that, but that doesn't mean that your brain isn't going and your mind isn't going, and you know, uh, what you're doing during that time. The next level could be smiling upon the way that you're helping others. That's what we're trying to get to, is that people tend to want to help others. Um, and of course, because of we can be in fear of doing that, and sometimes it's probably appropriate to have a little fear about that. Uh, and that's where it is good to have, I believe, individuals that have the job of dealing with those that may be losing control in different ways, and to where they could hurt somebody. Anyway, let's see. So uh, this image of the beast. If I look at that word image, it's interesting because it's. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I just got to go here. Um, it's listed as. Well, it doesn't even say what it's from. It's from 1503. Okay, so that's right. So it's used like 23 times. It doesn't even give the word here. Why is that? That's so weird. Or maybe I just didn't. Oh, I did. I just didn't scroll it down. I didn't know I left it that way. Sorry, being a little dense. But it's 1504. It's the word icon. E-I cone is the way that the pronunciation is given for it. Icon. And it's used 23 times as an image. And I'll give you some of the definitions in here. And maybe some of them will apply more than others. But it's an image, a figure, a likeness, an image of the things, the heavenly things, used of the moral likeness of renewed men to God. The moral likeness of renewed men. So that likeness, to me, when they say that, it sounds like uh, there's a soul characteristic to this, what's happening. Because that's the likeness of the, relative to the next level, the only likeness that even student members of the next level are going to be aspiring to is the likeness from the ones that they identify as their older members in that chain of mind that happens. And we have the evidence of that chain of mind in all their materials that T&O left behind for us. And so anyway, okay, now it's also used as the image of the Son of God. So Yeah, I got to bring this up in a different way. I want to see more of this. I just won't be able to put it on the screen because there was a bunch more that didn't get captured by my software. I don't know why, but I'll just read it because it was. It says, is the likeness not only to the heavenly body, but also to the most holy and blessed state of mind which Christ possesses. Okay, the image of one. The image of one is an interesting way. Well, I don't know in this context, but one in whom likeness of any one is seen. The likeness of anyone that is seen. Okay, so the likeness again is the thing, right? So it's applied to man on account of his power of command. Okay, so the likeness of the next level would, in compared to humans, would be the likeness of what we see of the governments, and the leaders and the billionaires and whatever they are, that likeness of the power of command that it comes by the dollar, right? Or whatever the currency is. Uh, um, okay, so in this relative to this, uh, one is behooves us to look at the application of it. Because if it's used 23 times, that doesn't mean that it's got the same application every time. And but because it's saying that this image is the image of the beast, so it's describing it that's related to the mind of the likeness of the beast. This thing, and I was thinking, is AI like that? Well, they're giving us a view of everything that the beast has gathered, through their digital mechanisms, right? And this, so that's one way of looking at it, and it's saying that it can both speak and cause as many as would not work for the image of the beast should be destroyed in some way. But it's the word hina in the Greek. No, that's not right. That's not the right word for that. And that word is not there. Oh, there's no word for this word. They use the word killed, and it's not even in here. So I'm gonna have to look to different software. But I thought, well, killed in that context is what we're talking about as the next level choosing to eliminate that entity because that entity hasn't become anything that they determine is useful to their forward motion of the next planting of the civilization with their minds. Anyway, so I'm just going to put it at that. And so, but that doesn't mean that everybody that dies that we're watching right now at this moment is going to be totally destroyed, or they're going to still have some existence like what people in the Catholic community would think of as a purgatory, like an in between, and that can be seen, I believe, accurately as like you haven't graduated into the kingdom of heaven yet, but you're still able to be saved for a future opportunity to be in the human condition when the older members are planning to come back and deliver the next steps that different souls are ready for. Whenever that, however that happens, whether it can happen all through history. It's not like, but in different ways, in smaller ways. They talk about the Old Testament prophets, right? And so those weren't the big. Uh, those probably weren't. Well, it could have been the older member. But it seems to me that it's not. Those weren't the older members. Those were the student members that were growing to become older members. In some cases, I don't know specifically. If I can talk logic to that because I don't remember T and Do getting into that kind of detail with the possibilities of those kind of things. But uh, XF is here as says good afternoon, Sawyer and Kathy, and yeah, we're about to have a Halloween parade here. Um, right? It hasn't happened yet, right?
I think they're gonna roll through at 7. We'll start hearing the honking and stuff. It's gonna be.
So the other thing that this beast does, I mean, this image of the beast that is given life to, that the beast has gives life to, because they talk about it as the same beast that was wounded and still lived, wounded by the sword. That's like to me like a military attack, and I believe that that's representing what happened at 9/11. And one of the heads of the beast is I believe the United States. I don't know. I could be wrong about this totally, but I think that the G7 and the G10 are the best representations I can find of the global seven, or the seven supposedly biggest countries for that entity, right? I mean, China doesn't recognize them as that, I don't think. But anyway, so that's the alliance that we're talking about. And the 10, horns, uh, and they have crowns on them, are showing the different kingdoms, and what they've become. And they have one figurehead that's at the top, even if it's just in the United States as 4 years. And he's not necessarily a figurehead. He's just, he's he's in that role of king. Yeah. So anyway, and I don't have any doubt that there's all kinds of coordinations going on between Trump and a bunch of people all over. I don't know if this Hamas thing is going to hold. It's just hard to tell, because they get back some of their people too. They quite a few, I guess, that Israel has. So that's pretty big value to people to have their relatives and back from prison in Israel. So it's good in a sense that they have motivation to end it, and yeah, again, they got to deal with the aftermath. Um, and hopefully the Arab countries can all step in together and help the people there. I don't think it has to mean that it has to keep on going in this direction. I don't think that's the next level's point of view. I could be wrong about that. I mean, I don't think they don't have to make choices like they do. I do know that from the next level mind. But will they make choices to go in certain directions? That remains to be seen. But there are competing space alien groups that have different agendas, and that's a good thing because that can, uh, keep some things from happening. Uh, anyway, But that doesn't mean that, within each of these groups there aren't, all kinds of people that are in between and compromised in a lot of ways, and the whole ball of wax, the big mess of that beast. That mind is, totally corrupted, but that still doesn't give us the right to think of any individual that way. I don't believe, because we're taking a position, except what they do, of course. I don't know. I shouldn't be trying to just give my opinion about this. Who cares, or anybody really? But I just get myself tangled up in knots in this regard. So let me go back to this a little bit, since nobody's saying anything in the chat. Oh, I do want to get to what was in the tape of session 9. This later goes on to talk about the mark and all that, and that's coming to be as well. We don't know to what degree it's going to be to where you have to have the digital ID, and then whether that could be put on a chip and inserted into you. We know that can happen. We know that it is happening. They've had experimental programs like that for a long time, and they don't tell us about all the way that it's happening. I think we've seen some people we've met that had something inside their body that they were able to just scan. Those QR codes, do they do that?
What?
The QR codes.
They are scanned and then bring up information.
Yeah. So there's so much, and so it says here, that they're going to receive this mark, that if you don't have, then you're not going to be able to buy and sell. And now England just announced that, right? That you couldn't. Well, they said it the way they said it was that you couldn't work without the digital ID. So if you can't work, they can really limit your buying and selling, because who are you going to sell to? Somebody that's got a digital ID when you don't have one? You'd have to do everything, with barter. Now that might still end up being good, and to be more in line with the way that T and O always felt like the whole credit system was. He talks about it in session 9 as well. Is unnatural to the next level. It's not the way the next level operates. On having the ability to do something that you don't have the ability to do. And the next level can help you have the ability to do things if um, you're wanting to be in their service, and you ask them for that help, and you uh, do so by you know anyway. The next level is judgment about that. They'll help you. They'll help a lot of people. I'm not saying they don't help everybody potentially, because they have even ability to help people that are dying in the hospitals in order to usher that spirit into the unseen world if they happen to die with a lot of trauma or something. I don't know what the criteria is for ushering them better, helping them move into the discarnate world. I don't know if they do that from the spacecrafts. I suspect they do. But that's like helping someone like the Star Trek movie, right? Where sometimes they were helping people, but they always built into it, these situations where um, there was some trickery going on, or or but never by Starfleet, right? They were always kind of up and up, trying to be anyway. Um, yeah, see, that's like the point of view that whole structure, the people would have the highest morals, so to speak. Where where they had a mission to just explore, and they had certain objects that would happen in that mission, maybe looking for minerals and whatever substances are on dwarf planet Ceres and Mars, and I remember when we first heard that Atlas was going to be going by Mars. It's along the same ecliptic too. So there's all kinds of spacecrafts going around Mars. The Chinese have them, India has them, uh, European Union has them, United States has them. I don't doubt any of that. Anyway, I'm not going to go there, there, there. I said it that silly way, but so 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 they're able to turn their units to face in a direction to where they can get the best camera footage of whatever's coming. And it's not necessarily in it, in terms of being singular. In fact, I just saw on my screen the first atlas that came and broke up into like 10 parts. Atlas meaning was observed by that Atlas observatory on Earth. And and I remember when it broke up into like 10 or 12 pieces. I don't know how many there were exactly, but uh, um, it would be interesting if it was 10, because at one point they said that Atlas showed 9 objects around it. So that would be like becoming 10 objects, right? So that might have been like a signature of that first one. I forgot the year of that, but if someone wants to know, I'll look it up. Or it's probably logged in, on Wikipedia or whatever. Um, what happened that first time? It was probably 10 years ago. Gosh, maybe. Anyway, so yeah, I know people are saying that some of it's made up and everything, and that could be. We could be seeing things. We don't know if they have drones or the space aliens are doing things simultaneously when the next level is doing things out in deep space. To where well, that would be what Doe said in session 7. I mean 9. I'm talking about here was happening with swarms, because he wasn't saying the swarms were coming in only from his heavenly Father's kingdom, but were also coming in from the counterfeits. That's what he called them, and the counterfeits are the space aliens. They're the ones that sided with Lucifer when they left the employ of the next level, the participation, membership of the next level, and the previous civilization. It appears to be uh, a little bit obvious that by those records that do have accuracy in them, but they also have been twisted and mistranslated, and but we got the gist of it. The most relevant parts of it are still there, and you can see the back of the Heaven's Gate book, where which I think that's the real definition of the backside of um, the little book, uh, which I wrote it as that my book was a little book, and the way I see it now is that my book was a part of the little book. It was my attempt to add to uh, the little book that they're talking about as being um, the scriptures that talk about the next level behaviors and ways and separateness from the human kingdom, the growing separateness that they have from the human kingdom. Because if things don't seem to be happening here in a way that we support, then you're you're not liking what you're seeing. If you take sides with different parts of it, well, I'm not anybody's judge on what they do with that, but you might be taking sides with the same side and not know it. But if you project your asking about that to the highest source that you can imagine existing among the stars, um, whatever you refer to that creature as, Doe talks about in session 9 that it's not one person, it's not one being, one creature. In other words, a creation of the next level, however that happens for the chief of chiefs. That we're not going to understand much about. I'm starting to wonder if I do understand a little bit about that, where the chief of chiefs came from. Um, just in a sense, I mean, I got that picture today in my mind. I don't know if it was accurate or not, but the picture was that it's like another module. It's like, so the Milky Way may be one, so that the chief of chiefs is, the one that brought about the Milky Way, and however many planets might. Is there someone playing drums, or is it an engine,
I'm not sure.
like a backfire or something?
I don't know, but that was weird. But
So,
they're
so I,
rumbling by.
so I think everybody, there's all kinds of people that are thinking outside their box, and I'm not the judge of whether they're, growing right or wrong. That's not my business. In fact, I take the attitude that they're growing. They're when we're exploring all these different ideas and things that are, are more being talked about now. Now that certain things uh, aren't being inhibited, while other things are being inhibited.
It's gonna be a really long parade.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I bet. They all people say that that Halloween is actually the biggest holiday in the United States, and I don't doubt that. I know there's people that won't let their kids go be part of any of the Halloween ceremonies. I know I was part of a tiny, tiny part of a church because my daughter, I wanted to expose my daughter to them, not meaning they weren't bad people, but they, had certain ideas that I didn't go with because we love to celebrate Halloween.
Do you guys want to see the parade?
But I gotta, how am I gonna carry this over there? Well, am I gonna disconnect the microphone? Yeah, sorry you can't see. We'll let Kathy
Everybody
describe
loves
it.
these books.
Kathy's going to describe it. In between me yapping. So,
Otherwise, I'm not here.
right. Otherwise, Kathy's not here. So let me go back to the tape. If they haven't joined me until recently, I've been talking about session 9 of the Beyond Human series. And you can see on my screen there that I put in my own words so that I wouldn't be, threatened by who. Anyway, so
I have a new name for them, but I can't say it.
yeah, don't bother saying it. Yeah. So, I don't know if I wrote this well, but this is the second part of my screen there, where it says, though that it's not applicable to the time when older members left physically, leaving all behind wasn't a modus operandi per se, but it was to continue to share their information with the world. For now, I'm talking about, I believe, because Tiendo talked about it wasn't for humans, and if we don't think we're humans, then we may need to look around again. That doesn't mean that individuals in the human kingdom with a human vehicle now have a significant portion of the next level mind in them, regardless of whether they're. We don't know how to judge them because they could be learning lessons that facing lessons that are more difficult than anything I've faced. And we know that there are different people that are able to face certain lessons, and but doesn't mean that we can't also. We can. I believe we can all face all the lessons if we look for help. Because if we don't look for help, we may be able to face certain lessons, but it's going to be harder, I think. And it might be more gradual, it might not be long lasting, those parts of it. Um, anyway, that's the way I believe, anyway. So, but then I go on to talk about that I believe in the truest meaning of rapture is that Doe felt was most illustrated by people leaving their homes and families when feeling that call to become a member of their crew, to exit their lives and travel with Tiendo, which is what I became a part of in 1975. And uh, and so uh, so those vehicles were captured in the way that it says in the Thessalonians by Paul as catching away, the way that Jesus talks about it as making you a fisher of men. You know, and the bait is the truth. I mean, it's still like a reverse thinking, right? Because you think of that as a negative for the fish, but then if the fish ends up evolving into a greater creature, then is it a negative to serve the kingdom above you? That's where that thing from Thomas that says if the lion kills the man becomes lion. No, the lion becomes man, and if the man kills the lion still becomes man. So, which I don't know if that's accurate to think that way, but it has a little bit of sense to it if you think about it as kingdom levels that are having interface with higher kingdom levels. Then any interface may be a positive interface for that lower kingdom level. And so, in that context, even the space aliens can be beneficial to the human kingdom because they provide, but it's the reverse of because they provide the fertilizer, they provide the misinformation mind, what's not true about being in this kingdom and the purpose of it,
This will be
and
the last parade we see here this year.
oh, that's gonna be the last one.
Yeah, because we're headed to Georgia.
All right, so I'll move on with that. And so the second rapture was in 1994 by that measure. And that doesn't mean that it stopped because the rapture isn't relative. Well, it's being caught up into the sky, right? So that's not happening as long as we're in our vehicles. But the task that was given to us was to spread their information. So that's the task we have. That's why it doesn't feel right for people to exit if they're um, able to comprehend Tiendo's reality and still learn lessons and or maybe for other reasons. A lot of people in human kingdom they want to work on their lessons. They don't want to because they do value life, and that's great. That I think they're growing potentially too. Everybody can be growing. It's not for little old us to say. I don't believe. I mean, I can go through all kinds of examples of lessons I believe are commonsensical, but I could also be wrong about some of those examples. So, or not be describing them in the way that Tiendo would.
Chairs.
Oh yeah,
They're gonna go that way first, and then they'll come around the front.
yeah.
So we won't see them until about maybe 10. Well, about 4 minutes. Well, less than that. It doesn't take them that long. I think
But
they go around the back.
right.
But since this is, they may go up all of, they may.
No, it looks like they're coming in right now and they're going around the back.
That's what I just said.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They go around. Usually
Right.
they go around the back loop, and they don't come through the 2 aisles right here. Oh, they are. They're coming right through here, and then so they're just gonna come right in the front.
Yeah, they're honking and they one person's got like a skeleton on the top mounted. I'm gonna see each one go by right here.
Oh,
There's a Spider-Man hanging on the back.
Spider-Man. And Mike Myers will be around.
Yeah, Mike Myers. Oh, there he is. There's Mike Myers. He's coming around. He's a big guy, isn't he? Some of them are spooky, are faster than others.
Supposed to be going like a circus.
Yeah, they want to keep up the parade.
And all the kids are out ready to catch candy. Oh, there goes the leader. And then we got a bunch of kids right next to us. Evan.
Yeah.
Ghost hanging from the bag. Oh yeah, I see Spider-Man now.
Wow, he took a long time to get to you. It might have been another one.
Oh, there's a big old spider. There's Mike Myers.
Oh, okay. Takes longer to get around there than I thought. Maybe they stop over there and do the candy thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we got some teenagers throwing out candy.
Yeah.
Oh, that one's all tricked out.
So the idea of, sin, right? We're supposed to talk about sin. It's Doe talks about it in session 9. It's missing the mark. He doesn't. That's not necessarily his primary definition, but I don't remember the order in which he referred to it. Because he knew that it was
Oh, there's
what separates you from your older member.
skeleton on it.
Now, if you don't
Got
identify with having an older member, then I don't think there's anything that's a sin.
so.
But if you feel like you have
Oh,
some
there's Baron
idea of an older member, look at Baron Buttercup driving by in the parade.
They're stopping and giving these kids literal handfuls of candy. Oh man, these kids are gonna be so hopped up tonight. Skulls with lights in them, flashing lights, skeleton. That one has 8 seats in it. Oh, that looks like a new car.
So each person decides what they feel like is their missing of the mark. And we know what the next level, has a high on their agenda is uh, as their, behaviors or ways of members to the next level. That's where our striving for.
Orange hanging from
Here comes that big guy with the standing up skeleton in the back.
skeletons. Those are not cheap. I know, because I wanted to get some.
So yeah, happy Pumpkin Day, XF there. Yeah, they do it every weekend. This parade, but this time they some of them are dressed up in costumes because they had a big costume thing event before. Right, they did trick or treating around. They didn't come to each camper though.
That had a table set
Yeah,
out
right,
so people could come.
right. So they didn't come to our trailer because we don't have a table set out to give candy away or to even have
Get it. Bring
socializing.
terrible.
We don't do any socializing. I don't think it's terrible. It's not like I'm looking my nose down at anybody.
No,
Right. We know we have a lot of things that are weird about us.
I don't think that I would want to talk to any one person that's driven by it.
Where's that coffee?
um, it's
All right.
the,
I'll finish the parade.
yeah, you're gonna have to wait until the parade,
Okay.
and then
Anyway, so I was talking about. I don't mean to be treating it so lightly by watching the parade at the same time, but
no,
then again, I don't want it to be heavy anyway. All right. Yeah, I'll take a minute break. Now that I'm drinking the tea, I'm good with it.
and then I'll get there. I can.
Boy, this was a good one though. This was a big one. Yep.
I haven't seen the man in the yellow suit, though. The Curious George guy.
Oh no. Well, it looks like they stopped. Looks like it's over. They definitely take a while to come around the turn. Yeah, I think they must be stopping and talking with people in the way, going extra slow.
Yeah, they actually are slowing down here and stopping kids that are camped next to us.
So yeah, so the thing that Doe was saying that was so um, powerful, really, um, is showing that um, well, what he talked about in a number of different ways that it's a war for souls. It's a war for a legions of souls because the next level doesn't need them. But the Lucy's kingdom does because the more souls he has working for him in the human kingdom, the more convincing he is with his ideas or their ideas. I mean, it's not, their ideas aren't necessarily all the same, but they probably have a lot of similarities. And you can see the different similarities in the different countries. Technically, it might there might be like a space alien soul in charge of each of those, you know, finance ministers and presidents and uh, you know, um, they can ride herd over a whole bunch of people at the same time. They're not limited to space and time in that regard. They have mental communication ability, and so they can can bombard somebody with a certain amount of thoughts about a certain thing or an area. I don't know how big of areas they can actually bombard their thoughts with upon. 'Cause it is limited. They have limitations. I know that as a fact. Now they may be outgrowing those limitations, or to where the next level is saying, okay, you can distribute your thoughts in a in this area or that area, or more in this area or that area. It can be divided up with those kind of details, because the next level, this is a garden patch. So you can imagine that, the souls are spread throughout it. Jesus described it that way. And so you don't want to remove the lower forces if it could upset the root system of seeing that happen of the ones that are still growing, because it might look kind of depressing. That's one way of looking at it in my mind. And one way that people can think about it is they can think, how come God's causing this to happen? If it's a loving God, then how come, they're allowing people to get cancer? You know what I mean? And other problems. And so that can be seen as a way of the Luciferians having humans turn their eyes from there actually being a creator that does have an overview of the kingdom, but that knows that nothing is wasted, even by somebody in a situation to where they have a deadly disease. It doesn't mean that I've heard people talk about some of the children that are in the cancer wards being like bright lights for them because of how they're enduring their difficulties. And so look at the way that people are getting the pain with that, along with the recognition that something is happening that's greater than what they can, comprehend. And so uh, it can, I'm not saying that I wish this upon anybody. I don't. I'm just saying that I don't think there's a negative on this planet that can't be changed into a positive. That's the way the next level operates. And that doesn't mean it's going to be an easy time changing our minds about certain things to get rid of letting them take us down into some dungeon of despair, or failure, or whatever, you know, um, that dungeon of despair can take us to, and to being, not wanting to exist. That's where it can take us. And when there's so much to be able to still do in this kingdom. And so, let the next level decide when we leave, is what. And people can say, well, that's because you're just chicken. You're just chicken, Sawyer. And okay, so if I'm chicken, maybe that's good to be chicken at this point. Maybe because that's the right thing for me to be chicken, because there's a big step that's. But some people, would say that to me because their influences are, not wanting to understand how the next level doesn't just give like blanket ways of growing towards their service and in their service. Uh, they are deciding things on the spot with people. They're not basing what they decide on some pre-organized artificial intelligence. They're the opposite of artificial intelligence. They're true intelligence. It doesn't have any misinformation in it either, of where it comes from and what the motives are, and what the backhanded things that happen in the human kingdom, the deceit, the manipulation of people. Anyway, I'm not going to go on with that. But I was saying in session 9 that our Father's kingdom get along fine without them. He's not out recruiting them because he needs them for any army to work against Satan. Nope, it's different altogether. It's our Father's kingdom does not need them, and our Father's kingdom is all sufficient, all for our sake, all involved in being a benefactor, all involved in trying to help those with potential to receive their potential, not concerned with building an army. I mean, it's certainly true that our Father's kingdom is so pleased and excited, and nothing could make him happier than to graduate into his kingdom, to have some graduates into his kingdom, new children. Doe talked about them as grandchildren and great 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 grandchildren, and if you and if you're talking about a relationship with the Creator, uh, it's just important to understand that relationship is potentially happening for anybody that's looking for it. So that's about all I had to talk about in this stream.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it says the 6 watching now. So it's been good to talk, and there's always more, of course. If somebody puts something in the chat right now, then I'll try to talk to it. But otherwise, in the next minute, I'll call it a night, and hope you all are doing well and moving ahead in your own journeys. Good night, folks.